the scaling backline, right? You know, the team fight champions maybe of Exile or the Twitch of Samix there, much more, you know, successful in attacking the Gnar and the Gragas, as you said.
I really like this Galio ban here from Unicorns of Love because it actually allows them to pick Syndra if they want it here on this red side or blue side. TSM, obviously, you got to ban Zac Caitlyn. Samox is a Caitlyn player. He would have first picked it if it was open.
And we've seen EU teams have no idea how to deal with NA mid Galio. This group stage, there are only 2 champions that have featured 100% pick and ban ratio this tournament so far. Zac and Caitlyn, and they're the 2 bans from TSM.
Yeah, the thing is with the Galio ban as well, you know, it does take that kind of option away from TSM, but Doublelift has said, you know, this team has always defaulted back to Bjergsen on a high DPS AP mage from the mid lane, Doublelift on a scaling AD champion. He said that's what they'll default to when the games matter, when it's crunch time.
And I have to disagree with the Shen ban here. I think in a best of 5, you can actually leave it open and see if Chachi still wants to play it. I think the Gragas has been way more impactful for the Unicorns of Love, and obviously they're trading it right now for the Gnar, but also things like Thresh would have been open.
Yeah, we were actually having a pretty long discussion on what was more important to Unicorns, the Gragas or the Gnar. And in the end, because there have been some successful answers to Gnar on the top side, and I think there still are some that we haven't even seen yet, you know, possible pullouts, I think the Gragas really good first pick there.
So Unicorns of Love do not go for their mid laner here, meaning Bjergsen would have the option to go for like a Syndra and then remove things like that Vladimir from Exile to really dominate the mid lane for TSM.
But what they do go for is incredible hard engage here. So Unicorns, they are going to stick to that style. And if they do hit that point in the game where they want a team fight, Rakan is the guy to get it for you.
I mean, they had these champions against TSM last time where despite some issues in the early game, they got to that mid-game stage, they got to these big team fights and actually executed them very well.
Now, of course, Doublelift yesterday, some praise for Samix and Hylissang, saying that he wasn't expecting them to perform to the level that they have. Phase 1 is completed. It's a Braum lock-in for Bifrost.
So last time TSM, also in the first game TSM played Unicorns of Love, we also saw the Braum come in early against the Zyra Rakan, and then Lucian was actually the pick for Doublelift just to get some mobility on the AD carry against all that hard engage. Might be the same here when they're actually saving that. Unicorns of Love, though, we're still also looking at that mid laner.
Yeah, and the thing is with that Lucian pick, I do like it for the lane phase, at least, before Rakan is using flash combo, you know, with the quickness and into the W, because you can just dash out of the knockup. However, once you get to the mid game, where Rakan is start using his flash to actually get those things off, then the mobility doesn't even matter, and he can still find the engages usually.
We're jumping into phase 2, gentlemen. Top lane is already locked in for Hauntzer, so Chachi, Galio's banned away, Gnar's picked. He's run Irelia once this tournament, and we'll have to see what else he decides to play and whether he's going to do something a bit interesting.
Yeah, and the problem with those interesting, you know, answers, almost all of the, you know, 1v1 winning champions for Gnar in the top side or matchups into Gnar don't perform very well in the team fights. And Gnar still performs in the team fights even against, you know, if you lost the lane to something like an Irelia or a Riven.
TSM actually banned Syndra on their own. Now, Exile in the past used to play her, but he wasn't like a huge, famous Syndra player in Europe. He was always much more about the Vladimirs and the Kassadins. So it's actually a very interesting ban here, obviously showing that TSM have something very specific in mind for the first pick here in the second phase, and they don't want to see Unicorns take the Syndra.
Or they could also, TSM could save the mid lane pick here for last pick for Bjergsen. He does have things like Zilean, you know, that you don't want to early pick.
That's why, again, you can go for AD carry now, save counter pick for him, and maybe they didn't feel they had a good answer to a potential Syndra. Kassadin being banned away by the Unicorns in case they want to play LeBlanc, then Kassadin won't be the answer from Bjergsen. But now you banned the Kassadin, and well, then TSM just takes the LeBlanc instead.
And that means AD carries all that's left for Doublelift. We'll see what it decides to lock in. Unicorns of Love have to confirm their solo laners now. What's it going to be, Deficio?
I was about to say Ryze here. As much as it hurts me to say that Ryze might be the answer, it is still a fine matchup against LeBlanc.
How did the Ryze go last time? I'll tell you. 0-8-4. It was a painful group stage. Unicorns of Love have a few seconds left.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in this pick for Exile, but he has stuck to it. You have to give him that at least.
Yeah. He's committing. So top lane we're looking at right now for Chachi, or of course jungle, you can still put the Gragas top, and that seems to be what Unicorns wants to do here. This also means now you have a jungler that's not really going to help Exile too much in the mid lane. So if he's under pressure against a LeBlanc Kha'Zix, he's kind of left alone.
But I see scaling, I see team fight, I see quintessential unicorns.
Yeah, it kind of is there. The scaling thing has me a little bit worried, just because maybe on the damage side, it won't quite be there as much. But the Ivern does bring so much protection that the Xayah, at least win that matchup, should probably be fine.
See Ashe coming in here for Doublelift. Has actually been very successful on this champion during the tournament, and I think it's a good champion against Unicorns of Love as well, where oftentimes you can actually catch them a little bit out of position, and using the arrow as the engage tool to then set up the rest of the team has worked for TSM before.
Yeah, and even though Doublelift, last time you saw it, you're like, oh my god, he hit like 6 arrows from lane phase over to mid lane. You don't even have to bank on that when you're taking this Ashe. It is more about the mid game and those engages. But the arrows towards mid and that extra pressure on mid is definitely a nice touch. And I think TSM will be going again with quite a few visits towards that mid lane.
Exactly. Yeah, I almost feel bad now for Exile because he's going to be under a lot of pressure. Top lane with the Gragas coming in for Chachi. That's trying to be more of a safe lane for Unicorns of Love. And the Ivern, it is a bit hard for him to set up the same kind of camp we can see from other junglers.
Exactly. The Ivern, his protection around mid lane would be much more coming in to shield and, you know, get vision, not really about turning around any sort of pressure. So even if Xerxes, you know, does kind of hover around that mid lane, they're going to have their hands full.
I actually think also TSM are just very happy to see the Kassadin being banned by Unicorns. They're like, oh, you want LeBlanc and you ban the counter? Well, we just take LeBlanc now.
It did seem like they had a plan here for the last pick, and then as soon as they saw Kassadin ban, they're like, oh, never mind, we will take the LeBlanc, thank you.
Well, we'll find out who's going to perform better in game. You guys saw the team compositions. You know how to vote on Twitter. North America is leading the fan vote at the moment, and they're leading the expectation as we load up for Rift Rivals Finals. North America versus Europe. TSM taking on the Unicorns of Love. The Love Hurts crew doing battle with the TSM fans here in Berlin, Germany. It's all for bragging rights.
Let's see, first game here, Unicorns of Love. With a lot of the same champions we've seen during the tournament. We've seen a lot of Xayah Rakan from Samax and Hylissang in the bottom lane. Of course, the Exile Rise once again, despite some of the issues with it. He actually did win one game. Let's see, mid lane. They're all spamming recall. Chachi, though, checking first.
I really do like, especially when you have Ivern, you know, after the nerfs, if you're having that champion on your team going for these early invades to get some wards down, because especially against someone like Kha'Zix who can get early kills on Ivern if you mess up your route, if you go for one of these invades, the low health that Ivern actually gets now because the channeling camps take so much more can be dangerous in these isolated situations. And Svenskeren, as we already saw yesterday, you know, had a very successful game on Kha'Zix when snowballing.
Yeah, that's what he's going to try to do this game. If anybody wants to check out Freak, Xpecial, and Sven, taking a look at the bot lane specifically. This is, of course, the Xayah Rakan into Ashe Brom. Head over to watch.lolesports.com, and you'll see the stream on the drop-down. It's not going to be tier lists all day like Jat alluded to. Although that
Probably
may feature,
get mentioned a few times.
That may feature, I'm sure. We've talked about Svenskeren and Xerxes in that matchup. Let's talk about some of the other lanes now. Chachi going to be under a little bit of pressure from this mini Gnar, at least early on, I feel like.
I mean, the thing about Gragas is before the first base, yes, you can get pushed down and the trades are not too easy for you, but then you go back to base and either you get like a Dark Seal, you start getting towards your Ninja Tappy, you're going to get, you know, some armor early on, and then you're actually going to be fine in the lane, and it's just so much more about joining your team, which of course, with Chachi, you kind of see a bit of both. Sometimes you see the carries where he wants to be the guy who split pushes, other times he just picks for the team, so it's one of the good things about him as a player.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that when you are running Ivern, you don't have a tremendous amount of that early pressure coming from the jungle as well. So, you know, the threat of that extra damage to help out in that top lane matchup and give you that extra little bit of threat isn't quite there. Ivern, especially now, does like to, you know, go for those more full clears.
And what's so interesting about these two teams is just how different they've actually looked in terms of play style. With TSM, we've seen very good 1 to 20 minutes with like pressure around Bjergsen, good vision control, unleashing the support as well to roam early on, and they've actually been very clean.
The other thing about that and why they've looked so clean, oh, never mind.
Oh, double a very early flash there. did not want to get caught up by the entrance.
Maybe scared that Xerxes could have been down there, otherwise you normally wouldn't flash.
Yeah, I was about to say the other reason, why they have looked so clean is because they have really done a good job at quickly identifying their points of the map where they have an advantage and then accentuating that, sending jungle pressure down there, sending roams down there from other people. But Doublelift there, you could tell, respecting that they had zero vision and the possibility that Ivern could have been there.
Funny enough, though, with the Unicorns of Love and their playstyle, we don't normally see them snowball the laning phase. We don't normally see Xerxes just spam ganking. We've actually only seen it on like Rek'Sai specifically, a champion he's not used this tournament. So it's been, of course, much more about late game team fighting. They tend to fall behind and then they have to claw their way back in and hope that the enemy team maybe doesn't set up a Baron properly or they push the mid lane too many times.
Well, let's see whether or not UOL can stay even instead of losing the early game. They've got a couple of challenges ahead of them if they want to make that happen. Because if UOL do go into the mid game on an even footing, this is a team composition that could do exceptionally well in those 5v5s.
Yeah, things like Ivern does extremely well against LeBlanc because she goes in, wants to poke that one target. Well, he has a shield from Ivern and that damage is not really relevant and suddenly Bjergsen can't really carry a late game team fight. You do see right now some of that early warding we mentioned. They actually do spot Ivern on the way. Bjergsen is hovering to the top side and a lot of praise to TSM in the early vision.
All right, Rune Prison comes out. Trigger Seed flashed away from. Not done yet! Bjergsen gives up first blood to Exile!
That was not supposed to happen. He even saw Xerxes near that Raptor camp, and I think he just disrespected the CC.
Yeah, where's the early flash there? Unicorns of Love are the ones that get this early advantage, and they get first blood.
Such a good start suddenly for Exile on Rise, also for the confidence in that mid lane against Bjergsen.
All right, a little bit of poke in this bottom lane. Nothing really follows after.
But even like Bjergsen could just walk towards the top lane and he would have been fine too.
Yeah, we saw completely different reactions. Doublelift in the previous, move down bottom, very quick with his flash, respecting the fact that Ivern could have been there. But here, Bjergsen, he gets hit with the Rune Prison, and even though he flashes away after that, no go there, goes down.
And he's going to be mad about that one, knowing how easily he could actually survive. Xerxes will find Svenskeren, or maybe the other way around, but he's one level down currently on the Ivern. Svenskeren's still waiting around. He didn't get spotted.
Now we'll find out how well they handle themselves as TSM still even on gold. Not a big difference in that first blood yet. UOL need to try snowball that. See if they can punish those flashless targets of TSM again.
I mean, definitely an option. Otherwise, again, if you are Unicorns, you're happy just staying even right now and just continue scaling with the Ivern. You didn't have to use any summoners before from your mid laner. Only Xerxes used his flash. So Exile is still safe, like barrier and flash available.
I want to talk a little bit more about this matchup, Exile and Bjergsen. Let's take a look at their CSD, jungle proximity, and we've talked a lot about Exile this tournament, but as it stands, it's really been Bjergsen heavily favored. You can see some of those stats on your screen. The biggest problem for Exile is those isolated deaths. He keeps getting ganked and shut down alone.
And he's not isolated anymore. That was the big change, right, that Unicorns made. And we saw it yesterday as well. Xerxes made a lot of counter ganks yesterday. Today, he's being much more proactive and obviously went to apply that pressure first. Down bottom lane, though. Bile going in.
Let's see what Svenskeren can do. Defensive hop away by Hylissang. Nobody's down yet. Bio's down to 150 HP, and the Unbreakable blocking it out. Samux still untouched, continues to chase. And TSM, the gank fails.
Very nice answer here from the Unicorns of Love. When they played against TSM last time, 2 days ago, they actually lost a lot of kills early on. Svenskeren found openings with these ganks here. So far, he's not been able to get anything. Xerxes will also try and steal his Raptors, but they're not there.
It's okay. Get a ward down. That's almost as good as stealing them. Get that extra vision.
Almost as good.
Honestly, though, I really do want to commend that bottom lane play there from the Unicorns of Love. They are able to output a tremendous amount of damage while evading the attacks. They use the extra mobility there of the Rakan. Meanwhile, though, mid lane, we're going to have another story here. Will they meet up, though?
Yeah, but look at
supports are here
support
too.
on both sides. First target is Bjergsen. He's already dashed away. Xerxes was waiting in the wings, and it seems like UOL read that play or responded in the same way.
Yeah, same for TSM here. I like the reactions on both sides. Bjergsen saves, of course, his ulti to get another dash in case he needs it to get further away. Of course, Hylissang trying to predict the distortion back as well from Bjergsen. No one dies in the end. Lane swap from Unicorns.
And this is the difference, aftermath, right? After that mid lane play. So often, actually multiple European teams have been going for this super early lane swap to try and push down this turret. The North American answer has been to send support up there to try and help out with the defense, but Bio is on the bottom side, so it's not going to be the case here.
All right, Hornser gets knocked up into the air. Sven Skeren's around for support. Hilly's busy tanking. Great barrel from Vizicachi, but the damage is coming down from Samux. He tanks the tower. Taste of Fear comes out. Sven Skeren gets it back.
Coordination a little bit off there from the Unicorns of Love. It didn't actually seem like everyone wanted to go for that dive instantly. Hansa, he stayed alive, and then the quick turnaround, Samux dying and using Flash.
Yeah, there were a couple moments where people on both teams were unsure about what the call was for this dive, because watch it, Hanser has a bit of a different idea than Sven Skeren. He's going super aggressive right up under the turret, and initially all of Unicorns are on it. They had the same idea. Hylissang is tanking, but then Hylissang goes out of turret aggro. He could have tanked one more. Samux takes it up. Here comes an arrow towards mid lane, though.
Manages to connect. How much damage does Sven Bjergsen have? Exile's going to get shut down. Winter's Bite comes out, and Bjergsen takes down Exile.
Double lift! Are you kidding? Look at the pink wards through the river. There actually is one for Unicorns of Love that the arrow did travel over there in the Pixel Brush, but Double Lift does it again from the bottom lane, just continually sniping those mid laners.
So important here for TSM. 2 quick kills after Unicorns actually set up the lane swap, and they were far ahead in terms of the tempo for the first tower. But then that dive went wrong, and then suddenly an arrow in the mid lane. Exile didn't see it in time, so he didn't flash it. And then suddenly 2 kills and Mountain Drake for TSM.
Well, Team Solo Mid pick up the first dragon. They've managed to do so in 2/3 of their game so far. Secure yet another one. Important to note that UOL have only picked up 2 dragons this entire tournament so far. Let's see if they can get their hands on that objective.
It's because the dragon is not in the mid lane.
Oh, there we
So,
go.
like-
Okay. You can't get it when you're ramming down.
Update for next season, maybe?
With the dragon mid lane, Unicorns win worlds.
Honestly, though, after that first swap failed, it's so much easier for TSM to answer now. You can tell Unicorn's not even going to extend here on the top side. They give up on that push very quickly. They don't want to go toe-to-toe anymore. Swap back down to bottom.
Right, and you said before, Kobe, how we've seen the European teams with different lane swaps. We've now seen some of them work, and they actually managed to get like a pretty good advantage with first tower blood. We've also seen them backfire now, and then suddenly they actually don't really excel in terms of getting just quick gold, and they have to slow down the game a lot. Hylissang, he was hiding behind. Backs away, though.
Yeah, and Sven Skeren's actually invading red quadrant of that jungle without any Unicorn's vision.
Decent sidestep from Exile. Ends up trading, coming off a little worse for wear into the minion wave, but Sven Skeren and the rest of TSM making the way. I also see Enchanted Crystal Arrows up for Double Lift. Does the American sniper land another shot? Not this time.
Well, they saw several of the members of TSM in this war
he almost hit
over that
Chachi.
curved bush. So they knew that there was some sort of TSM play coming, and the little bit of vision that they do have definitely pays off big there.
All right, as we take a quick look at the top lane, Samux and Hilly turn their attention onto Biofrost. Bio, stand behind me, yells, takes a look at Double Lift. Quickly look at the early game objectives. Gentlemen, Team Solo Mid, they, yes, did get first dragon. UOL got first blood. And you can see in comparison to the rest of their group stages, the huge gold deficit that Unicorns tend to find themselves in. It's around about that now.
Yeah, and they're actually going to set up for a big play on top side, pushing down this turret. They do have Daisy, so it's very easy, and they engage.
Well, Flash Engage comes out with the quickness. Daisy helping out. Double of Flash and heal. Nobody's dead yet. Now Sven Skeren gets the first. Shuts down Hylissang. That's a double. Looking for the triple as Samux uses the Featherstorm for time. Exile taste their fear as Sven Skeren gets a third.
Unicorns of Love just not respecting teleports here. TSM, they saw everyone move to top lane. They had a ward right there. Bjergsen was on the way to the bot lane, but he had TP ready. Instantly came in.
River wards, river wards, river wards. They have paid off so big here in the early game, and that they turn the top lane into a graveyard now for Unicorns of Love. 2 failed tower dives for them now up on that top side. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Hanser slowly whittling away at the turret as well.
And this actually goes back to day 1. Unicorns of Love, where they went 0-2. They were trying so hard to make big plays in the early game that backfired, so they fell even further behind compared to what we normally see from the Unicorns of Love. 2 tower dives they didn't have to take. They went all in. Like here, they're spotted on this ward, and there's TP ready from the LeBlanc, and even from the Gnar if needed.
They have had some of the lowest warding stats of any team, North American or European, here at this tournament. And again, it gets turned around. You can see TSM, Svenskeren slipping in here to cut them off and clean up the extra kills.
And another important thing to highlight, obviously, for Unicorns Aloft, they're not packing a lot of early game damage. You know, their comp doesn't have to snowball the first 10, 15 minutes. Your Ryze was sitting on a Catalyst and Tier. Your Xayah definitely needs items before she becomes a massive carry. And you have Ivern jungle. So these tower dives are really hard to execute when you don't have a lot of damage.
Yeah, and definitely more difficult when you don't actually land your skill shots and manage to burst down the appropriate targets with the limited damage you have. Team Solo Mid are nearly 2,000 gold ahead, just over it. And literally every prediction we had about early game, mistakes, deficits is happening again.
I gotta say, Deficio, didn't Unicorns actually even tweet you and ask you for your advice, and you said no unnecessary early aggression?
That was the thing I wanted to see from the Unicorns of Love, yes. In this game, we've seen 2 big moves, and suddenly TSM sitting with 6 kills and a 3,000 gold lead. This is why we normally don't want to see Unicorns of Love make the early aggression.
Well, now TSM do have the Rift Herald buff. They've got a 4-0 Kha'Zix. Svenskeren setting up to snowball, similar to yesterday, and they're going for the blue invade.
All right, Xerxes manages to tag blue buff, smites it down. Xerxes gets caught by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and Exile's here to fight. 4 members of Team Solo Mid making their way down. Interrupt on the Realm Warp means Exile cannot escape. That's a first for Doublelift. The rest of TSM continue to chase. Somehow Haunter's gone down in the bottom lane. Now it continue in the top. Doublelift gets tagged by the Featherstorm, but too many members means TSM trade 1 for 2.
Yeah, get 2 kills up here. They're feeling very confident. They can just keep fighting. Gunblade ready on Bjergsen. Svenskeren sitting with 4-0-3 on this Kha'Zix. Chachi though getting some damage on bot lane tower.
And Chachi has been, you know, a real bright spot for Unicorns of Love, continually performing. We're going to get the replay of the top side, though, that we just saw the engage here. Arrow did come down, as you said, and the redemption for TSM actually buys some time for them to get off the rest of those Braum passive procs.
And Samak's not able to join until now, so TSM knew we have 4v3. They already pushed that top lane first. It was just a very well-coordinated play. And with that advantage, they can go for it. Bot lane, I assume Chachi knocked him into the tower.
Yeah, he actually has red buff here for this exchange as well.
Okay,
not even into the turret, just takes advantage of the mini Gnar form here. And the red buff just absolutely taking its toll.
Man, Vizicsacsi. Well, remember the last 2 times these two faced off, Vizicsacsi got the early lead in game 1, and it was kind of replied in kind by Hauntzer in game number 2. Team Solo Mid, they extend their lead even further, and they also got Tower First Blood, by the way, as that went down to the Herald.
The thing is, though, last time, you know, an Aurelia into a Gnar, you have the kill pressure. You're supposed to look for, you know, 1v1 kills. Gragas into Gnar, definitely not the same thing. I mean, yeah, you do have an extra advantage if you have red buff, but that solo kill definitely unexpected and should have been avoided for TSM. But really, again, great performances from Vizicsacsi.
Very big for Unicorns Aloft. They get something, you know. They finally got that 1 tower up in the top lane where they've been trying to dive TSM multiple times now just to secure it. Chachi also being the shining light in the bottom lane. The rest of Unicorns once again going top lane. They will be spotted by TSM's ward. I'm just going to push it out.
Let's see what Unicorns do to respond. TSM, by the way, they lost that tower after 15 minutes. They've only conceded 3 towers before 15 minutes across the 7 games that they've played. Vizicsacsi is now going to be under threat as Doublelift fires the ECA. This is going to catch Vizicsacsi. He's stunned up, and Bjergsen is on a killing spree.
TSM, they send the squad down to avenge Haunter there and take out that shining light, Deficio.
Well, with the Vizicsacsi down, see the rest of Unicorns of Love trying to get something going in mid lane, but at this point you're just so far down on the map as well, and in terms of gold, you can't really fight it. This has gone so heavy in TSM's favor that Unicorns of Love's comp will need a lot of time before it can fight.
We can't say that we're surprised. We'll continue that discussion in a moment. The quickness comes out as immediately does a redemption. Hylissang forced to run for his life. The tower is already killed, but Svenskeren's looking for more. He's 4-0-4. UOL champion fighters not found. Featherstorm comes down. Blade Caller backwards will at least slow TSM's advance. Vizicsacsi doesn't have access to the explosive cast, and Hilly's forced to run for his life.
Oh, he wants
Vizicsacsi's
more.
on the front line, but you can't fight all of TSM. Bjergsen's on a rampage. Svenskeren kills Daisy, and TSM get the 10th kill.
That was a really good team fight example of zoning and the spacing being a very big issue here. In the end, after the backline gets chunked out, the front line can't move up without the threat of the damage dealers right behind him. And even though he started at full life, gets immediately taken down. Initially, though, it starts off with Biofrost expecting some aggression onto Doublelift. He's waiting over the edge. They start to turn it around here, even with the teleport coming in.
Yeah, Chachi obviously joining behind TSM at the moment. So you see Exile very low, has to back away. Same goes for Samax, but actually ended up taking all the damage before using his ulti. So TSM are feeling pretty confident most of the fight. Only really Biofrost who is low. And when they see Chachi chasing for that last kill, they can just turn around.
Lock him up, because as you said, Exile and Samax were chunked out below 50 HP, or 50% HP at the very beginning of that fight, and they're not super long range, so it's hard for them to apply that pressure.
Just such great play from Team Solo Mid. Punishing all of the tower dives from UOL, and as TSM continue to take advantages, 404, Hex, more of Malmortius and Warrior. Gunblade's been with Bjergsen for a while. He's sitting on a boatload of gold. Doublelift's almost about to finish his Zeal item. Like, TSM, the world is their oyster right now, and they're looking to set their sights on UOL's Nexus.
And you said before, Trevor, that you weren't really surprised that TSM would be this far ahead in gold. I actually personally am surprised, because I think Unicorns of Love would have been playing the way we saw the last 2 days, where they didn't go for these big plays early game, where they actually said, know what, if we can just farm even, that's what we're looking for. We know our window is after 20 minutes. They just went back and said, nah, this is first game on big stage for a final. We got to make big plays. And I think Sheepy will, of course, talk to these guys and say, we don't need to do that. You had the scaling, you had Ivern. No need to go for these unnecessary risks. Just play it much slower, and it's going to be fine.
That's what best of fives are all about, refocusing in the face of adversity after you have, slipped up, let's call it right now.
There's a lot of notes on Sheepy's notepad right now.
There's a big slip up on the UOL side as we get to 20 minutes, guys. 8,000 gold. And now TSM, they got a lot of tools to try and pull ahead. Bjergsen, no flash. Distortion comes out and manages to get the Mimic as well. But for TSM, it feels like this team composition, with this significant lead, should be able to just break open UOL's base, play the map a little bit more. It took a long time yesterday against G2, but I'm not expecting the same today.
Yeah, and kind of another reason why it does feel this way, and you had this feeling of it coming into it a little bit, is this has really been TSM's tournament.
Yeah.
You know, they only dropped one single game the entire time so far here, and they are definitely not looking to do so in the best of five either.
That's kind of the thing. We've seen so many good things from them. Drafting has been solid, many different comms. Early game, as we talked about earlier, with the vision and the pressure around Bjergsen, been on point. And they've been able to rely on multiple members to perform as well. Like, look at the bottom lane. Both Doublelift and Biofrost been the best AD carry and best support at this tournament. And once again, they're doing really well.
Yeah, basically unchallenged. The fifth tower of UOL fell. And TSM going to keep backing away. Just taking control of everything, stealing away UOL's jungle. Got a decent amount of vision in that left-hand quadrant. It's very early for Baron, but they can start baiting. And there you go. Worst gold difference at 20 minutes, minus 8,000 gold.
Yeah, this is definitely a rough one.
This is a warm-up game, right?
I do I do like to play the difficult game of always looking at from the team that's behind, looking at from UOL's perspective right now and trying to figure out, that avenue back into it. As even Xerxes tweeted out himself, quite a while ago, that's been getting, retweeted and popularized. They always default to, when they are unsure of what to do, head towards the mid lane, use their long range engage, and hope that the other team is spread out, hope that they find them in a numbers advantage. But even that right now, with all the wards of TSM and the gold lead they have, is very difficult to pull off.
And Kobe, you talked about wards a little bit earlier and how UOL weren't using theirs super effectively. Warding in UOL, well, warding in Europe has been a bit messy, but let's look at UOL more specifically. And Deficio, what do you make of these vision stats? Typical, I call it out, as a fight breaks out. Enchanted Crystal Arrow tags onto Samax. He's dropped to 50% HP. Bjergsen chunks down Hilly but doesn't get the kill. And as it stands, TSM maintain map control. And you can see wards per minute lost, wards kill per minute lost, control wards per game lost.
And this has actually been the same for Unicorns of Love in multiple years now. It's just been a way they're kind of playing the game where it is so focused on engaging for team fights more than that slow setup where you push all three lanes, the slow pushing minions. Everyone on Twitter, they're looking at the minimap saying it's fantastic. No, for Unicorns of Love, it's much more about just instantly find the engage. And that actually means you don't play around vision a whole lot. And obviously there's a lot of issues with that, but there's also been positives where they surprise a lot of teams with how fast they can start a team fight and suddenly win through that. In this game, though, it wasn't really about vision or lacking vision on their side. It was actually them just obviously taking the wrong fights with their scaling comp.
And I think that the vision leads to taking wrong fights, though. So they come.
I mean, they're diving a tower.
Yeah.
It was like,
the TSM saw them coming. Right now, they're not diving anything.
No, they're not. The blast code still doesn't save Hylissang. He manages to jump away.
Ooh.
The Realm Warp delivers Exile and Hilly to safety, but with Samux down, Baron becomes the objective with double mountains. This is going to fly.
All right, Xerxes is over the wall. Is he going to try and suicide in there or not even give it an attempt?
well, Exile is there with him. Really hard to walk in the front door, though, when the enemy team is already on the Baron, and Xerxes just steps away. TSM secures the important objective to really get that inhib or the inhibs down. And at this point here, it looks almost impossible for the Unicorns of Love to win.
Giant gold lead here for TSM. Giant control of the map, and they catch the AD carry out in the very middle of that map. Arrow ends up, going through with that straight line of the blast cone, and they have their little sick escape here with the Houdini. But doesn't matter because Houdini left behind the Baron, and TSM are happy to take that prize.
Yep, no, not a whole lot left for TSM to take with their gold lead. You talked about how it being a little impossible for UOL. UOL's got the
Are there varying
shortest
degrees of impossibility?
I think there is.
In Europe, there is.
Yes.
It's like kind of impossible, really impossible.
Okay.
Gents, UOL have the shortest average game time because they've had a few games where they've crushed, 27-minute win, and then they've had a game where they've been crushed, 26-minute loss. We might be on track to keep this average game time relatively low from UOL. That's not impossible.
What a way to start out the series, though. I mean,
A quick
please.
one.
You can hear a pin drop in here.
Well, not anymore, you can't.
Or it's a weird sounding pin, I'm not sure.
The TSM pin.
Yeah, the TSM one.
Also, while we were chatting about that ward stats, the stats team buzzed me and informed me that Samux purchased his 6th control ward for all of Rift Rival.
Well, sure, they're fighting.
They are indeed. This Biofrost is standing on the front line, does not care, even though there's a good knock back onto double lift. He just walks to safety, didn't even need to flash. The 5th kill for Bjergsen, so easily secured. Plucks Hylissang out from under the tower.
Well, they still didn't get that inhib turret down, so Unicorns are trying to defend, at least, in that mid lane.
There's a brush on it. How do you attack that?
See? No, they're getting it now.
Talk about optimism as Exile's gonna try get away.
Oh.
Tries to get back into his realm. Warp cannot do either. Hornsa picks up his first kill of the game.
Yeah, but they still didn't get 3 inhibs.
They didn't get 3. The only
I don't
member...
think anyone's going to get 3 inhibs this game. It might just be...
It might be over. The only member of TSM to not pick up a kill is Biofrost. He's got 0-0-12.
Yeah, come on, Biofrost, step it up.
Nearly 100% kill participation. And, well, TSM, they are just destroying Unicorns to open the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost difficult to even get excited about it. This is
These people have family. Like,
Bit of a
UOL's
smash.
family is here in the audience. Their families are watching TSM.
all right. Well, Exile, he is able to flash out, but does not break the chain, so goes down as well. And TSM, as you said, easily clean up that inhibitor. They don't overextend. They don't stick around for a 26-minute Nexus kill there or an attempt, because that could be turned around. And they're going to march it back out here, march up another line towards an inhibitor.
Again, whenever we see these kind of games as the first one in the best of 5, the team is already kind of thinking about, okay, next game, what are we changing? The coach is sitting backstage doing the same. So I really expect to see a much different game from Unicorns of Love in Game 2, where again, they are removing these really, really unnecessary moves in the early game. Because as we highlighted so many times, they have pure scaling in their comp.
Yeah,
They shouldn't fight.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because this tournament has been really interesting in the effect of winning lanes and the priority that a lot of the teams have been putting on at least 2 winning lanes to help out an aggressive jungler, and using that as a means to snowball this early game.
Exactly, and we see with TSM here, after mid lane where Bjergsen dies, and it looks like, okay, now Unicorns actually have a few winning lanes. They can play around. Then the dives suddenly backfires. Double Lift gets a few kills. We see Bjergsen start taking over the game, and now we also see Chachi dying.
All right, Realm Warp finishes, and just to watch Hornsa walk away, wave goodbye. So that wasn't very nice, friend. And Hornsa and Bjergsen take down Visit Chachi. 14 kills to 2. 55,000 to 39,500. And yes, Sven Skjern gets tagged and chunked, and he's able to flash away to safety. Enchanted Crystal Arrow hits the most important target in the fight, Samux. While that happens, Exile's chunked down. Daisy gets a knock-up, though, at least, and this could be some kills back. Shut down onto Double Lift. Inhibitor tower goes down as Sven Skjern gets a couple of hits. Remember, they haven't got 3 inhibs yet.
Exactly.
As TSM are thwarted on this siege.
I mean, the fact they actually walked down there. Oh, Bjergsen.
All right, Bjergsen's going to find at least one onto Samux. Hilly and Xerxes trying to run them
There's
down.
no damage
There's
there, though.
no one to kill anyone. Biofrost and Bjergsen
Kite him,
turn
Hilly.
it back around. Hit him with a chair. Hillesang is going to dash away to safety. And Chachi's being run down. Hornsa manages to get a hop, get the hyper, get the speed boost and a boomerang. As Hilly goes down in the background, that weird sounding pin was making noises again as TSM are just padding their stats.
Keep running, Chachi. Get all the plants as well.
I saw the
Take
video.
them away from them.
I saw the video yesterday. TSM were not dancing under the nexus of G2. They were waiting for Trick to kill Biofrost. Now it's the other way around. TSM are waiting to kill as many UOL members as possible.
He died in the end.
That flash.
That flash. TSM will get their second inhib. Or
What
will
you're
they?
telling me is,
no.
Oh no, inhibitor secured. So we live to fight another day.
Unicorns just need to do this for another 20 minutes, and then they're right back in the game.
Well, there's no Anivia for wave clear here. And TSM have got the entire map under their control. If they really need another Baron, it's up in a minute, and they can pick that one up.
But TSM can't farm any super minions.
Oh,
Unicorns can.
oh, advantage Unicorns of Love. No, not really. I tried to deliver that as empathetically as I could.
I'm glad you tried.
All right, well, here comes that number 2 as far as the inhibitor kills for TSM you are looking for. I think they can just stick around inside the base, pick up number 3. If you stay around long enough with these extra minions, you'll eventually be able to, claim those Nexus turrets by sheer force.
Well, Exile gets tagged by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Hornsa gets a very good knockback. Biofrost gets his first kill of the game, but Samux shuts down Hornsa. It's a 1-for-2 so far. Samux and Exile still alive, running for their life correction. Samux and Hilly still alive. And they manage to get the root down onto Bjergsen. Not a lot of follow-up. Featherstorm goes out. Bladecaller, I think, is still on cooldown. Sven Skjern and the rest of TSM dash in forward. Samux stays alive a few seconds longer. Xerxes' shields are burned through. The double lane is down. Xerxes runs for his life. TSM diving under the tower. Ace the Unicorns. Destroy the Nexus turrets. And while they did not get 3 inhibitors, TSM dominate Unicorns in game number 1.
Yeah, and this game was just decided at these 2 tower dives where Unicorns of Love went aggressive. They got punished by TSM. Great reactions from TSM, obviously. Had the vision, they saw them, had TP ready from someone like Bjergsen. And they came and they got so many kills from it and used that then to completely take over the game.
What a statement game here for TSM in the opener of the finals. Absolutely crushing Unicorns of Love.
And you take that from yesterday's game where TSM took 50 minutes to close out against G2. Admittedly, the compositions had a lot to do with that. Perks' Talia slowing things down, but for TSM, 30 minutes. UOL's average game time, I think, was 32:08. Actually beat that by a full 2 minutes. That'll keep bringing that average down.
Keep getting it down.
And you know what? Expectations, man. TSM were the favorites. UOL can fall behind early. Now, how those expectations came true was different.
Yeah.
But still very much the same.
I mean, true, in the end, people knew that TSM would win the early game, but Unicorns of Love, they got to change up here for second game because they can't fall that far behind.
Well, they have side selection. Is Pix and Ban something where they can spend some time to think about it, or do you purely think it's going to be decision?